Gerry and Sylvia Anderson had dreamt up the format and the initial scenario, and the other scriptwriters were now busy producing a variety of adventures for the Tracy family and co. to go on. It was now for the wider studio to turn those ideas into a physical reality that could go before the cameras. With 7 years of puppet production behind them, the machine was now fully streamlined.
And, as you've probably guessed, the stars of the studio are man-made puppets, which are known and recognized around the world. Fashioned from fiberglass and made almost alive by painstaking artistry, they bring the age-old art of puppetry truly into the 20th century.
The production process is far too elaborate and ingenious and highly technical to be called puppetry. The technique used to produce the extraordinary realism is called Supermarionation, a word coined by the creators and brains behind what is now a vast export industry. They are Gerry Anderson and his wife Sylvia.
We have virtually a rep company of actors, voice artists, and we pre-record the programs. This goes onto quarter-inch tape and then is played back on the floor. The puppets reenact the scene and their mouths react electronically to the impulses on the tape.
For the Supermarionation process, a specially designed unit converted dialogue into electrical impulses, which were fed down tungsten wires into the fiberglass heads of the marionettes, where an electromagnet would cause the mouth to open and close in time to the dialogue.
That's a bit of a daring idea, don't you think? It might spoil the illusion, you know.
It's you who developed this idea of lip synchronization.
Yes, it came in just at the right time when we were having trouble getting the lips on the puppet to synchronise with the sound from the tape. And the puppeteers were having difficulty starting the mouth moving when the sound came first on the tape. Then they went faster than they should do to catch up, so that we finally finished with a short bit of sound and a long bit of film picture.
Yeah.
So then we put a magnet in the head and they both work together now.
There's a solenoid there which pulls the lip at the back so that it goes backwards and forwards.
I mean, this is hard.
That's fiberglass.
That's a soft piece.
Yes,
underneath.
there's a piece of leather let in there and moulded into the fiberglass.
Yeah.
So that hopefully it doesn't show.
No.
So that the mouth can work.
Or so the theory went. In practice, more often than not, it needed a little manual intervention. The process, designed by Birmingham-based company Hollick & Taylor, was first tested on 2 puppet twins for Torchy the Battery Boy.
His battery must have broken and he can't walk or talk anymore. What fun! Let's take him home and put a new battery inside him.
Having been deemed a success, the process was then put to full-time use on 4 Feather Falls, in a new type of fiberglass puppet designed by company directors John Reed and Reg Hill.
My horse! You've made him talk, but he's got the darndest English accent. Naturally, old boy. My ancestors came from England.
These super marionettes would be the template for the Supermarionation process over the next decade.
It was a great step forward in puppeteering, and the puppeteers in time got quite used to using this, and they found it a great help because they very cleverly got the puppets to act in sync with what the puppet was doing and saying, and at the same time talking.
Fix it, Dempsey. Then we'll place the charges as arranged and clear out of here. In 3 hours, this place is going to go up. And so will you, Southern.
We're at the beginning of the series.
You had a lot of preparation.
Preparation for about 3 or 4 months.
We'd have this wonderful period before we started the show where all the sets were being built, all the new puppets were being built. So it was a very creative time before we started filming. You know, several months of intense work getting the shows prepared and ready.
Supermarionation is a new dimension in adult entertainment, and the actors start here in the puppet workshop under the guidance of Birmingham sculptor John Brown.
What we used to do is make a plasticine head, and then we used to paint them up and do a camera test, because it was much easier to alter them in the plasticine state than it was to do it later on. First you produce the plasticine original, paint it up for the test, clean the wig and all the other details off, then make a mould. And then from that mould, we would then make a fiberglass shell. And it was very important because fiberglass is very thin, very strong, and that's another thing. They have to be strong to stand up to a lot of explosions and God knows what around them at times.
Fiberglass was a great invention for the puppet.
We used to spend hours rubbing the faces down with wet and dry sandpaper so they were so smooth.
So that was the basic process, and then of course, you know, putting in the leather for the mouth areas, and then the painting and finishing and the wigs and all the other things.
Because they were film puppets, they needed to be quite detailed, because you've got the close-ups.
The first time we ever saw the finished film was on a big screen, not just a television screen, but a really big screen, and it was quite frightening. You know, you could see every slight blemish, and we couldn't have that. You know, it all had to be perfect.
At the beginning of the series, it would be Sylvia who was in charge of the characterization of the puppets. So she would tell us what she wanted us to portray, and she would oversee the modelling.
We have a mental image of the character as it should be, and I think we develop it from there.
Do you sort of see characteristics in people you know, magazines and that sort of thing?
Yes, all the time, all the time. I think in actual fact what we do is we take a composite face. In other words, we take the eyes of someone, nose from someone else, and so on. So we can then produce the perfect face for the character that we've invented.
If I got stuck on a place, I would jump in my car, go up to Heathrow Airport. I knew within 5 or 10 minutes I would see that character that I wanted walking out of a terminal somewhere. So it's a question of walking along, studying that person, and jump back in my car and get back to the studio.
We used to sit and go through the Spotlight magazine, through that, and sort of pick out people, you know, not dead copies, but that type of face.
I've packed your things, Mr. Tracy. Shall I put them in the aircraft?
No thanks, Parker. I'm staying for a couple more days.
Oh, pack the cases, unpack the cases. You think some people would make up their minds.
When it came to Parker, I had definite ideas. You know, Parker was going to be a natural for a sculptor to do, because it was caricature.
Oh, yes, m'lady. I quite agree.
In the case of Parker particularly, as a character, I was trying to think about the kind of cliché butlers in typical black and white English comedy films. The profile is extremely important, and look at him, he looks a little bit like a parrot, but that shape, that profile, his nose and his lip, are two of the key elements of his character.
But with Penelope, it was more like a real person. By nature of the character, she was an actress. She was a human face, and that was very difficult.
I just can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here, Jeff.
Well, it's great to have you, Penny. We're glad you could get over.
Well, it's the first opportunity I've had since you've actually started operations.
I can believe that. From the reports we've been getting, it seems you've been having more adventures than we have.
Oh, Grandmama, did you hear that?
Of course I did. I'm not deaf.
No, I meant dear Virgil's insinuation that I've been in the thick of things, as they say.
You do seem to have had your share of excitement, Lady Penelope.
Oh, yes, but I shan't consider myself as part of the team until I've been out on a rescue.
Sylvia was very interested in that character from the beginning.
I have the highest regard for Mary. Very quiet, lovely person, multi-talented, and never said she couldn't do anything. Always, yes, all right, I'll do it. And she worked hard at everything she did. The way we worked together was she'd obviously see the character on the page. I would talk to her about the character, and then I'd give her an example to make life easy. Each time I'd say, well, do this something to the nose or do something to the mouth, and she'd go away, do it in plasticine, come back, no, it's still not there. We couldn't get it right. I looked at her, I said, I don't know, that's not working. So she said, look, shall I take it home for the weekend? You get to a point where you don't know where you're going with it. Think about it, don't worry, and we'll start again on Monday.
It seemed to somehow get more and more like Sylvia herself.
And down to the blonde wig.
Yes.
She came in on Monday, and she brought it in to me. This is in plasticine and everything. She painted it. And I said, as she walked in, I said, yeah, that's it. They've got it absolutely right. Just a couple of little changes. Yeah, I think this is it. And she's appearing in one of the episodes. Daily Express came in, were interviewing me, and said, now, who did you base it on? I said, oh, well, I called in Mary. She sculpted it, and she'll tell you all about it. Mary came in, and to my amazement, really amazement, she said it was modelled on me. And she thought she wouldn't tell me. She'd try, because I might get an attack of false modesty, you know. Then it became, of course, you know, known everywhere what she'd done. But I'm glad she didn't tell me, because I would have been embarrassed, you know. But, and it worked. It worked well.
The puppet I most enjoyed using in all the Gerry Anderson series was Virgil in Thunderbirds. He was designed and created by John Brown, the puppeteer, who himself used to manipulate him. But he seemed to have a sort of face that suited any mood, any emotion. What was going on, his face was appropriate. It was a lovely, very good face. It took the cameras beautifully.
In the early days of Supermarionation, the crew had produced a single episode at a time. However, as the demands of production increased, it was decided to have 2 puppet stages shooting at once, each handling a different episode. This, of course, meant the production of twins for each main character, so that 2 stages could work simultaneously. By Stingray, this idea was further expanded upon, and it was decided to give each of the main characters different heads for different expressions. A neutral, a smiler, a frowner, and a blinker. This meant up to 5, or in the case of Lady Penelope, 6 heads per main star.
The previous series had been the Fireball XL5, and all the puppets had got nice, pleasant faces, smiling faces, and they went through hell. Explosions, plane crashes, you name it, smiling away.
We've got to stop it, Venus. It's carrying a planetomic warhead.
A planetomic warhead? Why, Steve, that's 1,000,000 times more powerful than a hydrogen bomb.
That's right.
So Gerry said, this is something that we must think about.
Once the demands of the main cast had been taken care of, the puppet department then had to furnish the show with a continuing cast of guest puppets.
Every week it meant making probably, 6, 8 different figures, which you didn't have very much time to start thinking, even drawing about with them. I would just start carving. And later on what we did, we had some shells made, just white shells with the eyes and the mouth mechanisms in, without the leather and things in. To fill in the gap that was there.
What we called revamp puppets, their faces were purely plasticine on a plastic shell so that they could make the incidental characters.
It was a very fast process really to model the plasticine onto them directly and then put endless coats of emulsion paint to put a skin on it because obviously the plasticine would be too fragile. And very often in shots, a string caught on and chopped the end of the nose off on some of these things. But it did limit you to some extent because they were all the same shape, all the same proportions. The mouth and the eyes were the same all the way, which tied it down actually. It reduced the possibilities of developing the character in the faces.
Thanks to the hard work of the puppet unit, there was now an extensive cast of marionette characters who could speak, once someone had provided the voices.
Parker.
Yes, m'lady?
The voices were very well cast from the word go, which is always a help.
But you see, at that time, I was doing all our casting. I got very friendly with the agents because I had to get nice deals with them and everything. And then if you use that one, I'll use that one sort of thing. And I'd say, look, this is a situation. Who have you got? And they'd always tell me names that they told me 1,000 times before. And I said, no, I don't think so. Someone different, someone new. I got to know what actors they had. Or I'd see something. A lot of times I'd see something.
They picked me up from there was a BBC series called Compact? Yeah, about a newspaper office. And Gerry heard the voice, apparently. He said that might fit one of the characters. He wasn't too sure which one, but and so that's how I gained entry.
Look, there are 600 people up there with about 40 minutes to live. Now, you can't help them, but I believe we can. Now, what's it going to be?
How about a little song, Stanley?
Eh?
A song. You know, or carol.
Hey, Alan, I've got a bite. Crispin, darling. Of course, I'd love to. For a huge fee.
You know, Penelope, I'll have to visit you one day. Never been to a stately home.
Thunderbird 1 from Thunderbird 2, picking up radar reflection of surface vessel. Grandpa Schofield had 2 sons, my father, Tom, and Clifford, who was killed in the war.
International Rescue receiving you. What is your position?
Guys and gals, welcome to the Midsummer Dance, held in romantic old Los Alamos.
Hello, Atlantic. This is Frank Hooper, rig superintendent here. Yes, well, I've got eyes as well. And I see a 600,000-pound profit turning into a 600,000-pound loss. And nearly half of it mine.
Virgil's trying to bring Thunderbird 2 back to the island. It's on fire and badly crippled. Gordon, Allen, stand by on the firefighting equipment.
Templar tried to kill me. And instead he murdered a man who has worked for me for 15 years. Boland, if you please.
We have our first emergency call, Father. The new Fireflash Max 6 atomic airliner is in distress at London Airport.
It's about the child that disappeared on Wimbledon Common. Yes. Yes, I think I know where it is.
The secrets of the world will be mine.
Mine! 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 Mine!
Who could be taking photographs of Thunderbird in this area? There's nobody within miles of us. Of course. That's it.
This land holds the bones of my father.
And his father's father.
And a man does not give up his land because of a paper, does he?
Forgive me, but I insist. Take your meat off my tray.
I'd done 4 series before, so I knew what it was like to be presented with a new team. They were parceling out the characters, and I ended up with Parker. I'm not sure if I was the first choice for Parker.
I mean, there's only one rule that must never be broken. Never disappoint your public.
The man that Parker was based on was a waiter who worked in a local pub.
Gerry said once to me, I want you to come and have lunch with me in this pub at Cookham. You might find this character rather interesting. So I said, well, fine, Gerry. And we sat down, and he called the so-called wine waiter.
And he was a snob who dropped his H's and then put them back in the wrong place.
And he used to work in the royal household, or the royal household, as he used to say.
And I think it was the Duke of Windsor. And we got him going, and he said, well, what was he like? He said, he was a lovely bloke, you know. He was a real gent, you know. He don't make look like that anymore. Would you like to see the waiting list?
I looked at Gerry, and Gerry looked at me. And so this wonderful character was born.
Parker was a smash hit overnight, and then, of course, we said, now, what are we going to do about Arthur? Were you going to tell him? It was obviously, he was a man who was a Cockney, but had pulled himself up by his shoelaces. And would he be proud, or would he be offended? We decided he would be offended. We didn't tell him, and he went to his grave never knowing.
And of course, in the first episode, when she rang, Parker said,
You called, milady?
And then we changed it, and we thought it'd be better if he said, you rang, milady. I think his vocal mannerisms were less explicit, and later on with the H's and all that stuff. I think Brains was, I think I was safe with him from the word go. And I think the mini stutter was the result of somebody very clever whose thoughts were racing ahead of their speech, or vice versa.
Well, I still don't get it. Well, I'll show you on this diagram I've drawn. The pit was filled in, and over the years, a new crust of topsoil has formed. The spontaneous combustion caused a slow, smoldering fire, consuming the dumped equipment.
Well, Sylvia played Lady P.
Really?
Do go on. I'm intrigued.
I was always interested in acting. We couldn't afford lots of artists, so we'd bring in some people, but I would do the other things. It was something that I enjoyed doing and really realised I was quite good at doing.
Hey, I almost forgot. Where's Mitch?
Just try to... Gee, thanks. That now.
Gee, thanks. Hey, I almost forgot. Where's Mitch?
Fine. I think I'm...
Gee, I sure am glad to hear that. Can I see him? Once more? Gee, I sure am glad to hear that. Can I see him?
As a professional actor, in a sense, I would have preferred that they'd given the job, not kept it in-house. And, I mean, she was very good, as it turned out. She made the character her own.
I don't think the other guys would have said to me, go on doing it, if I hadn't been any good.
She had a lovely voice.
Well, it was a perfect voice for the character.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Really, as a secret agent, I've got far more important things to think about. Oh, do excuse me. International Rescue. Lady Penelope speaking.
And Lou was very pleased with it, except he would say to me, now, you're not making her too posh, are you? That voice. And I said, oh, no, not really, Lou, but she is a lady, Crichton Ward, you know, let's face it. So he said, oh, all right, so long as the Americans will understand it. I said, well, I think they will, yes.
Why, Penelope, what a delightful surprise. I'm doing rather badly, I fear.
So I see.
I remember the episode when Ray Barrett played the Duchess, you know. But Penelope, well, I mean, how we ever recorded that, I'll never know. I'll never know.
He had a running part in a big TV series. I think it was called Mogul, about the oil business. He was a very good golfer, and he liked to jar. I received a call. He used to play at the Actors Club in Richmond, I think. And he said, this is Sergeant here. I'm talking from Richmond Police Station. And I have Mr. Ray Barrett here. He says you're his lawyer. Yeah. I said, oh, well, I mean, he lived next door to me. I'm an actor, actually. I'm a fellow actor. And there was a kind of pause. He said, oh, I understand, sir. Very sorry to trouble you.
Well, I'm going up front to have a word with the passengers.
Passengers or passenger? I saw her too. She's kind of cute.
London Tower to Fireflash. Reduce speed to low safe cruising. Return to London and reduce to 30,000 feet. It is reported that you have a bomb in your landing gear.
Now, one of the good things is we did it as a play, you know. I mean, we had no idea of the end product, so it was always done as a kind of mini drama in its own right.
Well, we always recorded wild, you know, and our voices were fitted to the puppets later on.
What's now?
Where's he go? Dusty?
11.
Is it? Page 11?
Yeah, top 11.
Okay, very down. Here we go.
It's quite obvious to me the doctor's been tricked by Pedro and some of his friends.
And because I'd written quite a lot of the stuff and I knew the lines they were saying, then I was able to direct them and say, no, we don't quite get it like that.
She was directed. Gerry never directed. I don't remember. Occasionally he would say something from the booth, like, Matt, you're too loud or whatever.
We had a lot of fun doing them.
We used to laugh a lot. We used to have to stop recording completely because we would be hysterical.
They were a bit like having a class in school. We say, what have you been doing over the week and everything? So I let them all talk about what this nasty director did and what the other actor did.
We had one microphone. Everybody gathered around this one microphone, central microphone. And you know, sometimes there are 8, 9, 10 people there. It was like a scrum.
Order, please. Order.
And then finally, we'd say, let's have a look at the script. And I would say, have you got any comments? Which, of course, I shouldn't have said, because everyone's got a comment, you know.
Well, we got the scripts. I think we got them in advance, didn't we? Yeah, so we could read them through. And then we come in the morning, maybe have a cup of tea, and then do a read-through on the mic.
And Sylvia would designate who would do the other voices.
I mean, with times I was talking to myself. I mean, I might have a scene with Parker and Brains, well, of course, I'd have to switch, so you just gave a tedious pause before you went in.
Is the picture satisfactory, Darcy?
Yeah. Thank you, Parker. Say, look, Lady Penelope. Get a load of that huge ship.
But what helped when we saw the visual accompaniment to because the voices were recorded first.
Yeah.
And to see some of the stuff going on in the hardware department, it gives you a terrific sort of lift. It was very relaxed. You know, it wasn't like appearing on the London Palladium or something. And so I think it got off to a pretty good start.
Although Supermarionation and the puppets who could talk were a leading part of the sales literature for AP films, their special effects department was, by this time, of equal importance. What had originally begun as a rocket taking off from a garden in Torture the Battery Boy had developed into a number of smaller shots either handled by outside firms, or by Reg Hill and John Reed, or even by the puppeteers themselves. This included shots such as the waterfall for Fall for the Falls, and the flying shots for the first series of Supercar. However, as time passed and the effects began to drive the stories, Gerry Anderson recognised the need for a full-time special effects unit and appointed Derek Meddings to lead it up during the second series of Supercar. It was this unit that was charged with the realisation of the design of the special effects and models, including the 5 rescue machines themselves.
Just take a look at that.
No, it was a new design. But did you see that?
Without Derek Meddings and the special effects, can you imagine, you know, what would be left?
Absolutely.
I mean, that made the series.
Sugar Smacks are go. Plenty of Thunderbirds energy fast when you need it. The Thunderbirds team all have Sugar Smacks for breakfast.
You'll love these honey sweet puffs of wheat.
Don't be left behind. Kellogg's Sugar Smacks are go. F-A-B.